Hi everyone, let's practice some MCQs on female reproductive system. The first one is the very basic question. Female reproductive hormone is, the option A is androgen, adrenaline, C estrogen, D testosterone. Which one among these hormones is the female reproductive hormone? And the answer is estrogen. As estrogen is commonly known for the female reproductive hormone, estrogen is associated with the development of both primary and secondary reproductive characteristics of the female. The second question is about the developmental stages of embryonic development. The question is, morula is an embryonic developmental stage that is formed A. Between zygote and blastocyte, B. Between implantation and parturition, C. Between blastocyte and gastrula, D. None of these. As you can see in the developmental stages of embryo given here, it starts from the zygote formation, egg and sperm. There is the fertilized egg after the zygote formation. Then after that the mitosis occurs. This one cell divided into two, and then mitosis it into four, and then this 4 is again further go through mitosis, and then 8 to 12 cells. This cell is known as morula, and you can see here morula is present after the zygote formation and before the blastula. So the right option for this MCQ is option A, as this morula formation occurs between the zygote and blastocyte. As here is the egg, it goes through these stages, and then there is morula, then blastula, then gastrula. So this morula comes before the blastocyte formation and after the zygote formation. So the right option for this question is option A. So this is how you can easily remember about the morula, as the name morula itself comes from the word mulberry in Latin. As the morula, after the division of the zygote, as the zygote undergo mitotic division, and that single cell, when it becomes 8 to 16 cells, this 18 to 16 cells cluster, it looks like a little berry cluster. So this is how you can easily remember about the morula and the shape of morula and how much cells it contains. Question number 3, the very important question: which hormone is responsible for the onset of puberty in females? Option A, prolactin, B, follicle stimulating hormone, C, oxytocin, D, testosterone. So the right option for this question is B, follicle stimulating hormone. FSH hormone is known for the onset of puberty in females. So how this FSH works, from where it is released, as from the hypothalamus, the initial stimulus in the form of gonadotrophin releasing hormone, it acts on the anterior pituitary. Then anterior pituitary is stimulated and it will release the FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. Then FSH finally acts on the ovaries, and then it is responsible for the onset of puberty in females. Here is the very interesting example for how the FSH is responsible for the buildup of puberty in females. It is compared with the seed. When the seed is implanted in the soil, take it as example as these are ovaries or the female reproductive system, and the rain, when happens on these seeds, it sprouts and it grows, and the rain continues until these sporulation becomes mature. So this is the same example for the FSH, that FSH release and it activates the ovaries for the ovulation. When there is enough ovulation, then estrogen gives command to the hypothalamus for the negative feedback, telling them that there is enough maturation of the follicles for the production of eggs, so it acts as a negative feedback. Similarly, this raining will happen until it causes the maturation or the sprouting of the roots. Question number 4. Milk letdown or ejection hormone is A, estrogen, B. Progesterone, C. Oxytocin, D. Prolactin. The right option for this question is oxytocin. So oxytocin is involved in the ejection of milk from the breast of the mother after the childbirth. How this process works, how the oxytocin is involved in the ejection of milk from the breast. Here in the flow chart shows the two pathways. After the suckling, as it activates the mechanoreceptors and it sends signals to the brain. Then hypothalamus follows the two pathways. For the oxytocin, it follows the nervous pathways. Then it activates the nervous pathway, it stimulates the posterior pituitary, and then through posterior pituitary, the oxytocin is released. Then oxytocin causes the contraction of the myoepithelial cells surrounding the alveoli. And then this oxytocin, through this mechanism, is then involved in the milk ejection. There's also another hormone that works together with oxytocin, that is the prolactin. Then hypothalamus activates the anterior pituitary by increased prolactin releasing hormone. Then anterior pituitary release the increased production of prolactin, and then prolactin act by alveolar epithelial cells and that are involved in the increased secretion of milk. So these two hormones work together as the prolactin is involved in the increased production of milk, but the main hormone, that is the oxytocin, is basically involved in the ejection or the letdown of the milk. Question number 5. Which of the following is the largest cell in the human body? Option A. Sperm, B. Ovum, C. Neurons, D. Osteoclast. So the right option for this question is ovum. Ovum, or which is also known as female egg. The female egg is the largest cell in the human body. It's also known as mature form of egg is also known as ovum. While as shown in the option A is sperm, and sperm is the smallest cell in the male reproductive system or male human body. Question number 6 is, which of the following occurs between days 16 to 28 of the menstrual cycle? Option A is ovulation, B is proliferative phase, C is shedding of the lining of the uterus, and D is the lining of the uterus builds up. So as shown here, these are actually the phases of the menstrual cycle. So the right option for this question is the lining of the uterus builds up. They have asked about the 16 to 28 days of the menstrual cycle. So there in these days, the lining of the uterus actually builds up. So let's see. Here mentioned are the different phases of the menstrual cycle. That is the phase 1 is the menstruation, proliferative phase, ovulation, and secretory phase. As in this proliferative phase, 7 to 12 days in which there is the formation of the egg starts. Then in the 14th day, that 13, 14 or 15, between these 3 days, the ovulation occurs, that the eggs mature and then it is released towards the uterus. So if this fertilized egg implanted into the lining of the uterus, then the embryo development will forms. But if the egg is not fertilized, pregnancy will not occur. So when the pregnancy will not occur, and in this phase, in this MCQs is asked 16 to 28, which is known as secretory phase. In this phase, the building of the endometrium occurs. There is the thickening. As you can see, this is the lining of the uterus endometrium, and in this phase, the buildup of the uterine wall occurs, or we can say that the endometrium developments takes place. The thickening of the endometrium takes place. This is because it prepares the uterus for the implantation of the fertilized egg. But when it does not form the fertilized egg, there will be no formation of pregnancy, and this lining is again shed off. Then this lining will be removed and it will be shed, and then this phase is known as menstruation. Menstruation is basically the shedding of this endometrium, or we can say the lining of the uterus. So this endometrium layer will be shed, and this process known as menstruation. Then again this process will continue. Again proliferative phase, in which the development of eggs will take place, and then fully mature egg will be released, and if fertilized, it will result into the embryo formation, and if it does not form the fertilized egg, then this endometrium will be released. And you can see which causes this thickening of the endometrium or the uterine wall. The hormone involved is progesterone. This progesterone which causes the buildup of this endometrium. Now here comes some basic MCQs. Question number 7. The eggs are produced in the A. Fallopian tube, B. Womb, C. Ovaries, D. Cervix. As the female reproductive organ, it is composed of different parts, but the production of eggs basically takes place in the ovaries. As shown here in this female reproductive organ, it consists of different parts. These are the mentioned ovaries. So the eggs are produced in the ovary. And this female reproductive system, it consists of 2 ovaries on the either side. On each side there are ovaries. Question number 8. Which part carries the egg to the uterus? A. Fallopian tube, B. Womb, C. Ovaries, D. Cervix. As the eggs are produced in the ovaries but carried to the uterus through fallopian tube. As you can see here, the reproductive organ of the female, these are the ovaries. The eggs are produced by the ovaries, then they are carried by the tube-like portion of the female reproductive organ. These are known as the fallopian tubes. The mature egg are released into the fallopian tube, and then they travel through this fallopian tube, and then if it gets fertilized, then it will get implanted into the uterus. Question number 9. Where the fertilization takes place in the females? A. Fallopian tube, B. Uterus, C. Ovaries, D. Cervix. So the right option is option A, fallopian tube. As this is a very critical question that most of the people does not know where actually fertilization takes place. The fertilization actually takes place in the fallopian tubes. As you can see here, there is the egg production from the ovaries, and the mature egg is catch up by the fallopian tube, and then in the fallopian tube, this egg, when found the sperm, it gets fertilized. So when there is the presence of sperm, then it will get fertilized and forms the zygote formation, and then this zygote will travel down to the uterus and gets implanted into the endometrium. And sometimes this is the normal physiological mechanism that this egg travels to the fallopian tube, and if there is the presence of the sperm, then the fertilization chance is there. Then fertilization will take place in the fallopian tubes, and then it will travel down to the uterus for implantation. In some cases, in some pathological cases, if this fertilized egg is not able to travel down the uterus, the pregnancy can occur in this portion, in this fallopian tube. Then this pregnancy is known as ectopic pregnancy, and the chances of this type is very rare. Question number 10. The membranous cover of the ovum at ovulation is A. Corona radiata, B. Zona radiata, C. Zona pellucida, D. Chorion. As the mature ovum has 2 layers, so the right option is corona radiata. As you can see here in this diagram of the ovum, the mature ovum is shown here. It has 2 major layers, which is corona radiata, and the inner one is known as zona pellucida. And this is the nucleus and cytoplasm, and this is the polar body. So the right option is, as this outermost covering is corona radiata and the inner one is zona pellucida. So the right option is A, as the outermost one is the corona radiata. That's all for today. These were some basic MCQs for practice with explanation. If you want to learn more, don't forget to watch other parts